federal government's increasing influence over the lives of citizens in Canada's 9 other provinces was all about money, and more importantly, who got to spend it. Gordon Robertson handled constitutional issues with both Prime Minister Lester Pearson and Pierre Trudeau.
These things all, the whole area of Social Security and that kind of thing, strictly fall into provincial jurisdiction. All of them are provincial jurisdiction. And the only reason the federal government can get into them at all is that it can spend money on anything at all. That's the spending power. And so it got into areas of provincial jurisdiction, not because there was federal jurisdiction, because there wasn't, but because it could spend.
Since '45, the feds, lately they're starting to try to back away, but they've moved into every field of jurisdiction that moves and doesn't move. I mean, if there's one area of jurisdiction, it's roads, small roads. The feds are in there building roads, schools, building schools. If you look at the Constitution, it's fairly clear. The feds have no business in that, but they've been there. They've been there in hospitals. They've been all over the place.
You have the federal government moving in the field of research, of university training and all that. So even the sacred cow of education is felt as being invaded by the so-called spending power of the federal government. Spending power, big word.
If the federal government would say tomorrow morning, we are no longer willing to spend $1 in fields of provincial jurisdiction, you would remake this country from top to bottom. You would have a totally different Canada, completely different Canada.
The carefully designed constitutional jurisdictions established by the Founding Fathers in 1867 are now hard to find. From Medicare to education to infrastructure spending, the central government has increasingly encroached on provincial responsibilities, something not foreseen in Canada's original constitution. We would look for causes of the phenomenal growth of Canada's government spending. We wondered why, in the 1960s, Canadians placed so much faith in Ottawa.
Bear in mind a few things. One, John F. Kennedy said in 1961, he said, by the end of this decade, we will put a man on the moon. Hell of an objective. And he turned to a government agency called NASA. Government was asked to put a man on the moon, and government put a man on the moon. That's a hell of a thing to put in your mind. You know, back in '61, to think that government could actually take a man from Earth, put him on the moon, and back safely, that was quite a goal, and it was met. So we had a decade or two that we had tremendous confidence in the ability of government to do whatever it set out to do. So if you created a department called Department of Regional Economic Expansion, people in the East Coast said, well, good. If an agency could put men on the moon, surely an agency with $500 million can come here and solve our problems. That was the mentality, that was the culture.
So they thought that government could solve all problems?
Sure, if you could put a man on the moon, we can do all kinds of things.